Good morning, Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com, here with your Hurricane Outlook and discussion for Friday, September 9th, 2016. I want to go over the sea surface temperature anomalies first before I get into what's happening in the tropics right now. This is the map that was updated yesterday, the NOAA-NESDIS anomalies chart. You notice fairly cold here in the equatorial Pacific. Interesting that at the same time the Climate Prediction Center has canceled the La Nina watch, basically saying that La Nina conditions are no longer expected in this region, more of a neutral signal. So that's interesting. That could affect things in the winter and maybe even next year's hurricane season. But we're still in this hurricane season, so we'll worry about that. And for right now, this is fairly cold relative to average and kind of speckled and broken apart over in the eastern part of the eastern Pacific, the Nino 1 and 2 area, for those of you that are familiar with how that's broken down. I mean, generally speaking, this is a vast difference between what it looked like this year and now. In the Atlantic Basin, still very warm here in the main development region. Cooled off a little bit here in the extreme western Atlantic Northeast Gulf because of Hermine. But overall, these sea surface temperatures are running quite a bit above the long-term average along the northwest Atlantic, and then, of course, in the western two-thirds of the Gulf of Mexico, also above average. Now, I want to show you something. This is interesting to me, and hopefully it will be to you. This is where we began on June the 2nd. And remember, there was a lot of talk about this very cold area in the North Atlantic, this very cold blob, as it was called, and how it could probably spill down along the Canary Current and then spread out into the main development region, cooling off this area below normal and making the hurricane season not very active. And so let's just focus on that. That's what, and you remember, people were talking about that. The cold blob in the North Atlantic. Well, this is what it looked like as of yesterday. June 2nd, September 8th. June 2nd, September 8th. I don't think there's anything else to say. The cold blob is gone, and now the sea surface temperature anomalies are much above average around Iceland, off the Iberian Peninsula. Northeast Atlantic warmed up significantly compared to where it was. The main development region, the rest of the tropics, warmed up as well, and yet we are still having struggling systems. So how do we explain that? I really don't have an answer. The lack of MJO or forcing on a large scale in the Atlantic Basin has not helped. To say that it has, contributed to the lack of activity overall, but is it really a lack of activity? Let's go look. Let's think about that for a minute. Since August, we had Earl, and then we had Gaston, which became a major hurricane, and we had Hermine, which of course struggled, but it struggled under a fairly suppressed pattern overall. The tropical waves have still been there. We've had several areas of disturbed weather. And in fact, if we move into what's going on today, we can see that very plainly on the map here, the graphical tropical weather outlook map. This, I'm going to talk about in a moment, will soon be 95L, I do believe. Here's 93L. Here's 94L. It's like, how could 95? Well, because it formed later. And this is going to come off and be of interest. So, it's not from a lack of trying. The Atlantic Basin is producing these pulses of energy that are coming off. And I guess it's obvious to say that it's a darn good thing they all haven't developed because, for the most part, except for Gaston, they're aimed and trying to head towards populated areas. There's probably going to be a mid-ocean trough out here to snag one of these and send them out. But what will soon be 95L and 93L now, these are already too far west to miss if they were to develop. And we'll see what happens with this system and this system later on. It's still fairly early, but it's not been as quiet as it might appear to be, but because of social media and the ability to monitor this stuff every 15 minutes basically, makes it hard if you're into tracking hurricanes to wait for the next hurricane. But it's only September 9th. We're only at the halfway point, and we've already had 40 to 45 ace points, something like that. So the rest of the activity going forward, we could easily be at a normal season, which was generally what is predicted and what was predicted. So with all that being said, where do we stand now? What's happening today? Well, this is a very curious little feature right here. Solid area, small as it may be, of vorticity, spin in the atmosphere. Another weaker area down here. We need to watch this as it moves up into southwest Atlantic. And then here's a very large, sort of weird-shaped area of vorticity associated with 94L. I think that this will become our next, I don't know if it'll be the next name storm, but it will be a name storm and head off in this direction. Sometimes they come more to the west, but more than likely this is going to find a ride in the mid-ocean trough sitting out here. Most of the modeling agrees with that. But these little pieces of energy here, this guy and this guy, already far enough west. I mean, there's 60 degrees west longitude right there. And so these will keep moving. And folks in Texas over here, you know, even though it's small, you have to watch it. All right, so I'm going to be on top of it for sure. This is what it looks like, visible satellite shot. A lot of people talking about this in social media. Clearly a pretty vigorous low-level circulation. Convection blown off to the southeast of that low-level center. I mean, Miami is sitting right up in here. So it's not far from the National Hurricane Center, that's for sure. Moving off generally to the west-northwest through the Florida Straits. Fairly slow. So this isn't racing out at 25 knots, you know, where it's just going to shear out and go away. We really do have to watch this feature. The upper-level winds right now are not terrible. Let me zoom in here so I can show you. There we go. Gotta love the Firefox browser because it really allows me to do some nifty things. I love it. So here is the upper-level wind chart. So right there, that little wind flag, that barb, yeah, you know, 10 to 15 knots of wind, maybe even 20, over the top of this system in the upper levels of the atmosphere. See, that is blowing over the top. And our system's trying to curl up underneath so the convection is removed. Once it moves out over here, still some northwest winds, but they're lighter. So we'll see. This has a little bit of potential. The Hurricane Center giving it a 10% chance. And that might go up later. And you can see the outline of this anticyclone in the atmosphere here, but the center of it, where the calmer winds are, right there. So it would need to move in, and this stay still. Upper level low pressure area sitting over here with much stronger shear. So it's got some hurdles, but if it can sort of build under that anticyclone there and they both move in tandem, it could be very interesting in the days ahead. So not helping, though, certainly, is the MJO, Madden-Julian Oscillation, in the circle. And this basically means very little, if any, detectable MJO activity. It's not amplified. It was recently in the Western Pacific, and that helped to generate some activity, but it was still fairly low amplitude. And what does this mean? Basically, this is your upward motion on a large scale. Additional forcing in the atmosphere to allow convection or tropical thunderstorms to flourish over a fairly wide area. The 200 millibar level, much more favorable when you see this. Large areas of anticyclonic flow aloft with very light winds, fostering that upward motion to go in the tropics. And right now, really not getting any aid from this whatsoever, so it's going to be up to each individual area, for example, this system, this system, this system, to find their own niche out here and try to develop within that. And that can happen. You don't have to have the Madden-Julian Oscillation in order to have development. It's not a prerequisite, but it helps, that's for sure. It's an enhancing mechanism, phenomenon. So, interesting times ahead. I am leaving Wilmington to go to Norfolk later today for the National Weather Association annual meeting. They have an exhibit up at Nauticus, a weather fest, if you will, and a lot of people are going to come out to that. All the weather geeks, I love it. So if you're in the area, anywhere within a couple hours of Norfolk, come out to Nauticus and check it out. I'll have the Chevy Tahoe there, all 415,000 miles of it, and some of the equipment, including the equipment that I used down in Florida for Hermine, and in New Jersey, even though it was more of sort of testing things up there than, I mean, we had some high tides. It was operational. But yeah, I'll have that and a big screen monitor inside. My partner Jesse Bass, who I've been working with since 2001, he'll be joining me. And he lives in Portsmouth, so that'll be good. So come on out to Nauticus tomorrow, pretty much all day, 10 to 5, something like that. Look it up, Nauticus, if you don't know what it is. Awesome facility in and of itself, and a great opportunity to learn about weather. Come by and meet us, and check out the other folks that'll be there as well. Look forward to seeing you, all right? And if you can't make it, I'll shoot a couple of videos and post them, and they'll show up in our app, of course, and right here on YouTube, all right? And I'll try to put something together tomorrow while I'm at, maybe even while I'm there. We'll see. If not, I'll certainly be back on Sunday, and we'll watch these systems. It could be an interesting few days ahead, or more just waiting for something to come along, but it's not over yet. I don't see the end near. We are not even to September 10th, so long way to go. Have a good rest of your Friday. As always, thanks for tuning in. I'm Mark Sept for HurricaneTrack.com, and if I don't talk to you tomorrow, I'll definitely talk to you again on Sunday.